Right, welcome to Bitcoin Core App Design Call number 83. Welcome, everyone. I will share again our call notes document, which you're welcome to put in add notes. And so I was gone for a couple of weeks, and a long list added up for me for stuff to review. There were several pull requests and then a whole bunch of open design tasks. And then today, out of the blue, Harold messaged a few hours ago, basically confirming that this application will indeed replace the old widgets-based GUI in Bitcoin Core. So that was I don't know if everyone knows, that was a long discussion. Some people wanted to get rid of a graphical user interface out of Bitcoin Core altogether because the old one was just around for a long time. It seems like no one really wanted to work on it and whatnot, or devs didn't use it. But now it seems confirmed that this is actually happening. So that's pretty awesome. And then, Harold, the other question was whether this application will be merged into the Bitcoin Core existing code base or whether it'll be a separate one. The separate one has the benefit that there's a separation of tasks and it can be on its own release cycle. And it sounds like it's going to go into the OG code base for now, which means that the release of this application will be tied to the releases of Bitcoin Core, which is a 6-month release cycle. So not just the release, but also all the testing and feature planning and all of this stuff. And then Harold said that, well, we really need to get this thing done. So I see another increase in the sense of urgency in this whole thing, which is pretty cool. It also means that we just kind of need to have our stuff together, which is also great, right? So I don't know much more from Harold, but it feels like we kind of need to. It would be helpful for ourselves if we kind of have a good plan. So if I and then collaborate well and like really help each other out with everything. So if I read it correctly, then we kind of need to figure out what this version is that will where everyone's okay saying, okay, let's throw out the old code, put in the new code in the code base. So that would be the first time that this application gets released as Bitcoin Core with one of those releases, which is a huge milestone, right? Also puts in a lot of pressure and makes this thing very, very serious. And then if that is indeed a big release, then we need to really become part of that release process. And maybe we also want to have a website, maybe we want to have documentation of all the features, and maybe we want to do videos to explain how it works. Maybe for people who want to migrate from the old one to the new one, we can have, here's how you did it in the old one, here's how you did it in the new one. There's all kinds of stuff we can think about doing. So it's helpful if we have, if we just plan ahead for that stuff. And then there's some features that we'd love to work on probably, but that are really not that priority in that sense, probably. Hey, Johnny. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my thinking after hearing Harold's update.
It's just time to rock and roll.
Yeah, it's big, right? It's kind of okay. Now the pressure is really on.
Yeah. Marnix and Johnny, I don't know. Do you know anything more on that side of things, or? Johnny, you might not even know what I'm talking about because you just joined, right? But Harold told us earlier that basically at BitDevs he talked to a lot of people and we're basically good to go, that Bitcoin Core app will replace the Bitcoin Qt code base and will become part of Bitcoin Core, and that we kind of need to get our stuff together and have good momentum and speed releasing, getting this application to a solid state.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's definitely a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's exciting.
It is super cool. Did you know anything about any expected timelines or anything of that sort?
rough timeline was 6 months, but it would be like next year for release. But they'd want some things working in 6 months.
From today?
So there's lead time to test and all that.
Is that from today or from when?
I think from today, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
When does Bitcoin Core always get released? Is it beginning of the year and mid-year or something like that?
Yeah, it's like every 6 months. I think April, November, something like that, or April, October, something like that.
Yeah. So
'Cause they just did one, so yeah, it's roughly 6 months.
Okay, so if we do things well, maybe we could sneak it into the November release, and if not, then
No,
would
it
be-
wouldn't actually go in the November release. There's like no chance it would go into November release. It'd be more like get it functional by then, so that there's time to test it for next spring.
Okay. Just gonna
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just gonna write this stuff down somewhere. Okay, so core release, let's just say April and November. So core app, get this, and so we would shoot for this parity version, right? Where we try to match one-to-one the features of the existing GUI, so that it can be kind of a drop-in replacement, if you will.
Yeah, is to a reasonable extent.
Okay, so we will try to get this really good version done by November, and then there will. So what does this testing look like? Like, why does it take 6 months of testing?
It's just integrating it, running it, people getting comfortable with it, making sure
Christoph, where are you writing?
it's building and everything.
Oh, I just put it in my own notes. We can also put it in the document I shared. Okay, so is that almost like a soft release in a way, where basically like there's this release period and people just kind of start using it, and I mean not with lots of funds, of course, in a kind of a limited way, but is it where at the beginning of this test period everyone just tests Signet, then people move test on testnet, then people slowly maybe start testing things with small funds on mainnet or something like that?
I don't think it's anything like technical. It's more just like a soft deadline to make sure there's enough time to verify it.
And what is the in this soft release that we're hoping to get out 6 months from now? Would it be, and just correct me if I'm wrong, it would be basically onboarding flow and then single sig. We're not looking to go into the view only or anything like that, or what's the
Yeah, I don't know specifically what they expect. So I don't know what their expectations are in terms of features.
Yeah, I mean, considering how loose the communication is, maybe no single person has a set expectation. Maybe that's something that we need to come up with. I would really appreciate that, so we can also tailor the design specifically to it, and not maybe avoid working on stuff that's kind of out of the picture for
Yeah.
the first release. So maybe we should just come up with that and then kind of send it to individuals and try to get. It could be a
Yeah, I
situation
think,
where we send it to people, and one person might say, "I really want this. This is so essential," and the other person says, "Well, miners really need this," or whatever it may be, and we just kind of piece things together. Always, and we end up with a feature list where it also states like who brought this up and what is it good for, and then we get consensus around that.
Yeah, I mean, in
I'm
a
looking back to
situation
the-
like this, I think you could just lead with something and people will follow. So I can't imagine there's strong opinions on this yet, or anyone actually individually knows what the feature set should be. So
Yeah.
I think the designers should decide that, because I feel like you guys have a better perspective on like
So I'm
what a
just
general user might actually want than the developers, but everyone's going to have an opinion on that.
Yeah. So there are two other sides to this, right? The more we pack in, the more there is to build, right? As designer, it's easy to draw something and say, cool, let's do it, but it might just be a ton of work to do. And then the more code goes in, the harder it is to test and get this first version merged in. There might be, if we say we want to scan QR codes, then we need like camera access and the libraries and dependencies. There's all kinds of stuff that come up. So I think there are multiple angles to consider. I'd personally prefer to have a slightly slimmer application, but have it really well executed.
I am leaning in towards that as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think pruning things down is going to get us better results. But
I see here that in 2022, in August, we decided that the MVP would have onboarding, create wallet, send, receive, and then single sig, multi-sig watch only. That's quite a, that was in 2022. It was a bit like this. I'm sorry, but I've been documenting that was from our call in August 11, 2020.
Yeah.
So I am feeling in terms of what Christoph said, we just lean down things.
Yeah, so multi-sig is, Johnny, do you think multi-sig will make it in? Because you need still rely on this hardware interface and all of this stuff. Do you think that's realistic?
It depends on how much support we get.
Okay, so maybe.
I mean, right now I would say no, but
yeah. Okay, how about we do things like essentials and stretch goals?
Exactly. The word stretch goals just immediately popped up from past experiences.
Yeah, so essential stretch goals, and then things that we maybe definitely say that are version 2 or future improvements because of technical complexity or whatever it is, fringe use cases, other things. Okay, so I think we can spend a bit of time and try to map all of this stuff out. I mean, there's some stuff where like developer tools really kind of depends if developers really want to build all that stuff, right? Editing, viewing, having interactive debug logs or stuff like that. There are things like citing messages, that are not technically super essential to the usage, but it's part of the original one, and we may want to do it. But so I think we should, and assume UTXO technically is also not part of the old wallet, but is a new thing that's making its way in. That will need iteration over time. So yeah, let's. I think it'd be good if we have kind of a solid spec document with, and if we're organized about it, then the chances are just so much higher that, people will take it serious, more people come in and help out, and testing will be more efficient because people know exactly what's in this application and all of this stuff. Hooray for project management.
Ideally, I'm just talking really like just thinking about making sure that the users are trusting the application, is that if we want like the version to be ready, like, okay, let's just say we decide MVP is onboarding and create single sig wallet, then that should be working like a well-oiled engine.
Yeah.
That should work like a well-oiled engine. That means that there's no glitches. It's just everything is really smooth. And so ideally, you would have almost like this period of, okay, we think it's ready, and then we test out the thing that we think is ready, and then all the problems are going to arise, and then we're going to fix the problems, and then we do another release, because that's just how it works. Because we've seen that now with some of the versions that we're testing. So we'd almost need to include something like a first release expect there to be glitches and then fix and then go back again, because yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it's helpful for each of the features to also have kind of different use cases and scenarios ready that people can test easily.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, if we focus on the building the good part, and then if there's this longer testing period, then we could use that time to also put together website and documentation, migration, tips. You're moving from the old one to the new one. You want to do this. Here's how you do it. That type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of adjacent things besides just the design of and the coding of the application itself. You have basically a migration path for every user if they've been using the old GUI.
And sorry, as Christoph said, creating migration documentation, and in terms of you're migrating, okay, you've had core on your device and now you're switching over. I think that's also something that is, as Christoph mentioned, it's important to create what do you call user notes, or just like a how-to. Because there would be one user group which would be migrating, and then there would be another user group which would just be coming in completely fresh.
Yeah.
And I suspect with the migrating group, there would be the most glitchy possibilities of.
Yeah, if we have 10-year-old wallets with all kinds of data and scenarios and stuff, then there could be people with super custom config files and settings, then there might be all kinds of stuff that we're going to discover during testing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But if we kind of think about that this will be launched in a year, and in half a year we want to have this dev version ready, then we have some starting points and we can work with, and a bit of a long-term roadmap that we can set up.
Yeah, I wouldn't over-rotate or get too caught up on it. I think we should just keep doing what we're doing. But yeah, I think I hope what it means is we'll get more support from some of the core devs, the other core devs, to test and maybe help integrate some things and answer some of those questions. So.
Yeah, how does it look from the development side? It's the second time you mentioned getting more support. Do you feel like there are gaps? Do you feel like you're stuck or blocked on things, or how does it?
Not on the application side. It's more platform build systems, like really technical engineering things, and the migration is still an open question. Like, what is that going to look like from this? It's mainly like code structure and process and build and all that. We still don't actually know.
And is it specifically the migration part? Are you basically cool until you get to that point, or are there earlier things that you would?
Well, the thing is, like, it's not going to stop us from building the application. So it's yeah. So it's it could cause us to need to do a whole bunch of work to reorganize and restructure and all that. But in terms of like building app functionality, it doesn't directly affect that, as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm. So they would have different expectations on code structure, for example.
Possibly. Or build process, or yeah, things like that. We don't really know what that's going to look like.
Do you guys have dev meetings as well, or is it just everyone's kind of working very independently at the moment?
We meet regularly. Me, Pablo, and G have been, and Harold hops in occasionally. So it's just us working on the QML stuff, trying to get through the current PRs and everything. So, but we don't get to sync with the other core devs as often, mainly because they're very busy. But I guess that's what's going to be interesting is if they make this application a priority, then that communication is going to, we'll be syncing up with them more regularly. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, at Advancing Bitcoin, I showed Gloria and Ava the design docs and some of the showcase widget stuff and the web prototype, try to get them excited about things and some of the dev tool ideas and all of that. And they had not seen any of it really. So yeah, but they thought it was really cool. They're excited about it too. So
yeah, it sounds like it. So I think that's really good.
Yeah, so I think if we can just kind of build a lot and put things out there and be very visible, we're also more likely to get more feedback, and also that earlier feedback will then help ensure that things are being built the right way and the right things are being built.
Which is the latest PR for testing? I can test that tomorrow. I know there were a few PRs that they mentioned.
So several of those are already merged. Right?
Oh,
Yes,
they're already
I was
merged.
just gonna say a bunch got merged yesterday, so I don't even know myself. I need to sit down and relook at it all and see what the next ones to get in are.
Yeah, so I was actually thinking that part of this call maybe should also going over what we need to test.
Mm-hmm.
To put a list somewhere. And let me see if I can think of it off the top of my head. Things that got merged is generally now there's this, instead of just onboarding a node, you actually have the top navigation in the application, right? Where you can click between send, receive, activity, and whatnot. And a lot of this stuff is placeholder, right? There's a balance, but it's fake. But you can click around, so that works. Then the data directory, the data picker. So if you want to change where blocks are being stored, that picker is working. It doesn't actually change where things are being stored, but the UI for it is working. So you can, that didn't work for a long time. So that's doing onboarding. And then there was some other minor stuff, some text changes, and I think some interactive tweaks on the proxy page. So you can click around there, see if it's intuitive, if it all makes sense. Yeah, and then I think, Johnny, it sounds like that main wallet page will then, the individual components will be separate PRs then with the functionality.
Yeah, and there's already a couple that are already working, but in order to simplify things, I had to take it one step at a time. So the next one I'm probably going to push up is the mini block clock and the mobile layout. Yeah, and then G is going to push up the actual implementation of the directory picker. But yeah, all of those three are pretty good, are pretty significant UI pieces. The proxy thing is mainly like validation, input validation. So that's interesting to play with. And then the picker for choosing the external file dialog comes up, and just make sure that that is coming up like you expect on your platform.
Yeah. And so everyone, what do you, or this is a design crew question specifically, if developers want to test, if they're ready for something to be tested, what's the best way to let you know about it? I mean, there's always the thing where people can mention others in, GitHub PRs, but to me that sometimes gets lost. Another way would be to just show up in this call or in Discord, just say, hey, everyone, we need design feedback. Please test it. Here's a link or so. What would you prefer? What works for you and what doesn't work for you?
I personally, checking in on Bitcoin Core the channel every day is just not, it's just too much for me to catch up on because there's so many messages. So with me, when I have this call, I'm like, okay, then that's what I'm going to do for Bitcoin Core, so that I get the information from this call and then I test. So for me, it's more this call, and then I write down, make notes, and then I'm testing.
Okay, so is it best if I'm doing some PMing there and I get notified, and then just kind of let everyone know in the call or otherwise?
If you're okay with that, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, let's say in Discord, getting message in Discord is already good or way better than GitHub or going only GitHub style. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll try to keep an eye on that stuff then. I do get the GitHub notifications, and also been mentioned several times. Yeah. And it's fun. You get to click around in this thing, see how it slowly becomes real. You know, there are already things that I'm noticing where I'm like, this could be a little bit better, and this could change some stuff here and there, small stuff, but you know, it's nice to see this come together. And then there probably I feel like there will be some more testing instructions that we need to put together. Like something I came across this week was being able to just force the desktop app to show the onboarding screen experience again.
Yeah.
There's this custom, what's it called, parameter for that. So I think we'll also have to expand the test.
So Christoph, I see you mentioned here on the 8th of April, which is not too far away, that the PRs 389, 392, and 395 do those PRs all need review then?
Those are merged. That's what
those are merged.
Those were already merged.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so no need to review.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Yeah, I don't know what else do we have. Should we just go into other stuff or talk a bit more about design process or anything else? I mean, yeah.
Well, I think it's probably, I mean, with this new, let's say, expectation or reality about going further into production, maybe that should take a little precedent to think about how to actually set up for this on a team level, I think, or from a because I mean, if we don't expect to make, like, if we don't expect certain features like multisig or something to really make it right now, so this is something that we probably can like do in parallel, but maybe get a better feeling of how we would like to operate on the kind of the more pressing features or the kind of the process to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have, let's say, if we shoot for let's say the next release to get a kind of a pre-prod or a dev release out, then we should also be able to allocate kind of our resources to then test and help with fixing the things so that in spring the glitches are ironed out, right? So it's kind of, and in the same time you want to in parallel kind of work ahead for and get a kind of a cadence going for the upcoming features.
Yep.
So probably like really revisit the kind of these things that we first determine what should be really in the MVP or in the first release, and then iron these things out as a priority.
Okay, yeah, we can dust off one of the spec documents we already have and just kind of put that together. I think that would be a good one. And then I also always like to hear from the development side in what order it makes sense to develop all this stuff. So things are ready when development begins.
Very good question.
I don't think. I mean, I think we're already on a good trajectory. Kind of how we thought about it previously. I had mentioned that probably creating the wallet is next, and then single sig. In terms of the transaction piece of the wallet. So
there was wallet creating, wallet import. Then we have send, receive, and activity basically as the big buckets.
Right, and I mean that's gonna that there's already been a bunch of work on it from you guys, so I'm sure there's a couple of things that need to be tied up, but whatever. But yeah, I mean that's gonna take us a couple months here.
Yeah.
So I think we're good in terms of that.
Yeah, there's just always a bunch of detail. For example, in the assume UTXO conversation, there's a PR in the current GUI. I think Sears is working on this, where until transactions are actually confirmed during the snapshot, they show as having just one confirmation to indicate that those have not been independently verified. Like you're trusting the snapshot, but you haven't independently verified the state of that particular transaction. And having a visual state for that, I feel like there's just so much detail in the Qt GUI with tooltips and other kinds of stuff that I'd love to have more deep dives into each of those sections to really make sure all of that stuff's captured.
Yeah. And if we shoot for, is there kind of a buffer period or kind of a deadline if, let's say, you want to get something into a November release, by which time something needs to be freezed before that? I assume that a month or maybe two before the release is kind of the deadline where you can change things, let's say from a design perspective or from an iteration perspective. Is there something like that, or can you really change stuff up until the last day before you release something?
No, yeah, you have these release candidates, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like these release moments, and I feel like these release moments should be sort of staggered, if I use the correct word, because if we stagger them and just really heavily move towards quality testing before getting it out to the public, we'll be doing ourselves a favor in making sure that whatever we're delivering is of the highest quality, So that's what Christoph mentioned with this constant testing.
Yeah, so I think Michael's question was more, let's say April is the next release. By which time do you basically have to, have your code ready where all you're doing is bug fixing, you're not adding anything anymore? Is that 1 month?
I think it's about a month. I think it's about a month before.
Makes sense.
But it's not. There's no hard rules with any of this, and honestly, that deadline isn't. If we don't make that deadline, it's not like a complete failure or anything. You know what I mean? So.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. But the question was really, maybe it's more of an internal kind of an internal deadline, but just to say, okay, we kind of.
I think you have about a month.
We need to have
before.
We need to have. Okay. But that because
it's about
that
a month
means,
before when they do the RC and then start doing the whole process for tagging things and.
Okay. Because then probably from a design perspective, we need to be ready even before that, right? Because you then have to, let's say if we want to be, let's say code free or code ready by end of October, then we shouldn't make any changes to the designs really maybe from September onwards, because
No. That's kind of what October is. That gives us 6 months until the release candidate.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have a question. Like if I look
Yeah. So
here,
October is sort of like 6 months before any like realistic expectation for a release would be.
if I look here at the pull request in the current QML, let me just turn it here. So it's like this one, I see Pablo came into the channel and then he was like, hey, can you help test? And this was PR 391, which has already been merged. And then Christoph jumped in, he tested it, and then they merged this PR. So this one is being merged that has the merge sign here. So all of these live pull requests now, it's not that many. Would you guys just come into do you guys like want us to come in here and just help with tests, or is it more that because I wouldn't even like, I'm not a very technical person, so I wouldn't know like if I would be expected to test this PR, which is still live. Like I would traditionally go here to the home page and then I would download, the latest binding from here.
We can just make it a habit of posting in the Discord for clarity what PRs are useful to validate in terms of design and all that. So you're not that's a good point, because some of it's just not really. It'll be confusing to you, I'm sure, and it would waste your time, to be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to I wouldn't know which one would be ready for testing, but I mean, could, if it helps, like
Actually, that one actually is probably ready to test and could use some design feedback.
this is ready for testing. Also,
that's Harold's adding improvements to the peer details page.
Yeah,
but yeah, that I think we'll start to do that. We'll because it sounds like you watch the Discord. We can, when there's design related PRs or PRs that could use feedback on design or validation or whatever, we'll put them in the Discord as well.
it seems like when Christoph kind of did the quality testing of that one, then the merging was like done, so it's like how to help with the merging and moving the merging of designs forward, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you know from the guide too, it's always best if whoever creates a pull request or wants to make a change, that they actually describe it pretty well. What it's for, what it does, and how to test it, because it can. I mean, otherwise, even in the guide, like if you don't, I mean, even with client work and whatnot, if you don't actually describe specifically what you want feedback on, people will look at all kinds of stuff, And
that's how I feel. Like I don't know where to look, which PR to test. It's quite overwhelming. Like I'm watching quite a few, channels in Discord at the moment. So I'm not able to always go into the GitHub and just check what needs testing.
Yeah, that's a good reminder.
Yeah. So I'll test this one then, I guess, which is the peer details page.
Yeah,
and we'll have we'll try to clarify some of this as we're adding PRs, and I'll let the guys know as well.
Yeah, it can be part of the weekly calls to quick check in what PRs need testing and all of this stuff. And Michael, I guess another thing with the process is that in this decentralized development world, there's some stuff we can probably plan, but then people might want to do all kinds of other stuff and have all kinds of ideas. So I think we kind of need to. It's not going to be a thing where like, oh, we create a feature list with the exact changes for the next release, and then that's what it is. But it'll be more organic.
Yeah, I figure it's just maybe that's kind of have kind of an internal convention to say, okay, let's say we're working on something from a design perspective, but if it's kind of not ready like at point X, it just is not a release candidate. right? Or it doesn't go in there. So that's how you could maybe have parallel features going on, but not be too constrained to have like a corporate roadmap, right? So basically each feature would have kind of some kind of at some point just a decision point, or say we're not ready for this, so it automatically kind of gets pushed out, and yeah.
How can we continue to make use of, because Christoph created a whole repository for planning, you know, it's all here, you know.
Yeah, I need to update that one.
You know, I feel like this is a very good thing that we can definitely use. Like it's, you know, there's a roadmap here as well, option.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think we need to like over rotate on anything. I think we're on the right path. It's just maybe things will speed up and we'll get more help. We'll see. I wouldn't change anything, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it sounds like there may be real excitement about it, which could be a lot of help to the project.
So should we, when we're testing and when we're testing a PR, should we just give you feedback directly in the PR itself?
Yeah, that's the best place.
That's
because
the direct way to communicate with you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great when you do screenshots or you just record the experience. Like on a smartphone, it's easy to just press the record your screen button and do your testing or so. Just like we did for all the accessibility and all these other things, just documented really well. So it's just very obvious, you know, usually what things didn't work, right?
Yeah.
And
I think the best place is for that, and then keep the design repo for planning and discussion of the features themselves. So.
Yeah, it's super cool. But you know, Johnny, just like you, there are multiple devs now that have received funding to work on this project. If I might have to try to do something similar on the design side of things, if this really becomes a big thing and there's just way more stuff needs to be done, because right now everybody just kind of does it on the side between 50 other things. So that's just also one of the things that's in the back of my mind.
Yeah, this year, the whole plan is to hopefully, I don't know about what the core people are saying, but like to have a really good demo by the summer to start, maybe looking for more funding.
Yeah.
On the dev side, especially.
Would it be like helpful if one of us jumped in on the dev calls every now and then, or would that just be way over our heads because we wouldn't understand anything that you're talking about?
No, we are doing it tomorrow at 11, or which we actually have been recently doing it just right after this meeting. It'll probably be boring to you. That's the only thing.
I mean, I'm always keen to sort of listen in and I know that it's not the design side of things, but it is. Is there like a link to join or?
No.
I don't know what time it is.
So, so there's the one thing about joining the calls, which is also great when everyone mingles a bit and chats with each other.
Yeah.
The other thing we can do is always just share some notes afterwards with kind of the most important stuff, especially the stuff that affects everyone else.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we can do that. Yeah. I think that probably would make the most sense is to just we've been kind of maintaining the similar document that you have, Christoph, but maybe not with as much discipline. But Yeah, we'll definitely share. We should just share the notes for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope like Harold can get back to regularly joining these because that would help with synchronizing everything as well.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then just more practically speaking, on right now we have we should just do what we're doing, go through all these 8 milestones that were listed on the site, get really first good versions of those, and then just kind of go over them again. I also think the web prototype, building that out further, is pretty helpful for testing and for kind of feeling things out before they're being implemented. So right now, stuff that's going on is create wallet creation, assume UTXO, and the onboarding animations. I think all of this stuff we can wrap up very quickly. And then we can move on to what was the next milestone? Did we already figure out wallet import? Yeah, I think so. Then activity, send, receive, send. Just flesh out all those further. And then after we've done that, there's probably another round of more detail. So we can just continue with that, I think. So that's kind of the independent, phase of moving the design forward. And then the collaborative part is, being there for being reactive to when the development starts on something, helping, provide, anything that's missing or testing and all of this stuff. And I think the website and this type of stuff we can probably forget for another half year or something until it gets closer to this demo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe not half year, maybe just a few months.
I'm looking at the introduction page with all the designs, and then we created the feedback we're looking for right now.
Hey, Esixe, I hope I didn't butcher that name. So this is a totally different project call. For the Porter Wallets discussion, just join the Summer of Bitcoin channel in Discord. That's where that discussion is best had. And thanks for tuning in. Hopefully it was interesting. Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying, Mo? You're muted now.
I was just wondering as well, we have, I'm just on this page here. I'm on the design docs page. So we have the web prototype. We've got the initial onboarding flow, and then now we're going into the UTXO, which feels like it's not really essential for maybe not essential for milestone 1, but we have all of these now, and then even adding into that would be the create wallet flow,
Yep.
which we haven't added in the designs, I guess, because it's not finalized yet.
Yeah, and that one we need to split up into single sig wallet creation, which will be the first version, and then multi-sig wallet creation, and maybe custom wallet creation where you have all kinds of technical features and whatnot. So that needs to be split up probably in sub-pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be, or is this too ambitious? Would it be possible to have a prototype, a clickable prototype now of the onboarding flow plus create wallet single sig? How far are we away from actual like a clickable prototype of that, or is that too ambitious at this stage?
No, that's not ambitious at all. I think so. For
Yeah.
so much stuff, we have all the pieces. We have, and we designed a lot of different screens. It's more about just putting them together in the right way for all these things. And that's where right now it just gets a little bit complicated because we kind of have the V1 of the application, then we have all the stuff that's in, like what's being developed is always, kind of a mishmash of different pieces. As like right now we have this main wallet page, but some pieces are missing.
Yeah.
And then if we have wallet creation is technically will be built out in 3 stages, then what does the web prototype include? Just the first one, just
Just
one
the
at
first
5, or all 3 of them, right? So
Just the first one.
you just
Just
kind of
the
have to be explicit and in order to not totally confuse ourselves.
Because I feel like, I mean, I'm happy to take that on. Like, if we have the designs ready for the onboarding, wallet creation, clickable menu thing, like, just I'm happy to get that in front of a few people. I know we're nowhere near like development side of the wallet creation, but I feel like now's the time because it's not near development.
Right.
So
Yeah. So I think we need some type of versioning system here where we can have variations of all this stuff. And for prototyping, for testing, it totally makes sense to, it's like the web prototype, you can easily just branch it off, delete a bunch of pages, put some other stuff in if you want to test something very specific. Or with Figma as well, you just duplicate it, tweak it to whatever you want to test, and then just work with that. And I think that's a good idea to test this updated onboarding that includes wallet creation. So we could do a mini project around that one. So Jakob just shared updated designs. I still had some feedback on it, but I think once we're okay with that, we can put it on the website, on the design docs, and we can put together this more complete clickable prototype that includes on the new updated onboarding with wallet creation, up to the point where then you go into the main wallet into the main application.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're just arriving, the stop point would be the home screen with send and receive, but you can't do anything from there. Yeah. I feel like that would be so good yeah. So could I start to put something together based on the finalized designs, based on everything that's being shared? I mean, I think I can navigate.
Yeah, I think it needs a little bit more work.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're very, very close. We should collaborate on a little bit. Okay, so Mo, I'm just going to note this down. We're going to have a new task. Create a prototype with new onboarding and wallet creation for testing.
Yeah. And I'm happy to do it. I know Figma's prototypes not the most like fluid, but I don't want to give you any more additional work for stuff. So I'm happy to create a clickable prototype in Figma.
Yeah.
You don't need to develop anything.
Okay, great.
I'm happy to do that. But I'll wait until there's a bit of more of a green light. It feels like there's still some things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Once we have it finalized, we can update the design docs, and then that basically means we're okay with that version, and then we can put the prototype together. And ideally, it's just copy paste a bunch of screens in a new file, drag those little arrow lines to turn it into prototype, and then run with it.
And a question from the research side of things. What type of research do you guys feel would be useful for this project moving forward? I'm going to jump in and say a little bit what I think, just based on the first research that was done, but that was months ago. The node management, we learned through the first initial research process that there was a lot of node management going on in the current version that people are using. They're using it to run nodes and they feel like they contribute to the ecosystem, So I feel like there's very little information known on how people are running nodes, which settings they're using. And the node runners are quite a big chunk of current user base. So I feel like we need to serve their needs. So I was thinking in the future, it would be good to do specifically get on calls with the node runners. But I'm curious what you guys think and what comes to mind.
So I think something to consider here is that this node running experience is different than the old one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a little thing in the corner anymore. It's actually kind of in your face. You have this dedicated page for it.
Yeah.
And also you can run it on mobile.
Yeah.
Which is a very different environment in terms of CPU, memory, storage. Maybe sometimes people, they don't want this to run while they're on data, but only on Wi-Fi or so. So we should separate kind of the mobile node running experience from the desktop one. But yeah, then it would be good to just figure out those use cases, and for each one maybe talk to a handful of people and figure out. But yeah, I mean, we already talked about it a bit. We should just kind of figure it out.
Yeah, I think so. I think sort of putting together a bit of a research plan of the node runners would be good as well. We have access to them, that we have access to that Discord community. They seem to be very helpful. So I think it shouldn't be too much of difficulty to get on calls with people. So yeah, but any other ideas, Johnny or Michael, if you think what would be useful?
Yeah, maybe not only look at the people who are already running nodes, but try maybe talk to some people who don't know or don't do it at the moment. Because that's also one of the goals, right? Is to get more people just basically running a node just because it's easy and convenient and important to do. And these don't, maybe, I don't know what if they differ substantially from the current ones. But I would imagine if it's easy to run a node on a mobile or it's easy to do, then you would open up to a new kind of audience or type of audience where people are not that technical and they don't use any other special settings. They just use what's there by default. So that's
yeah. So I'm also I'm a little bit torn on asking people. So there are two things you can do. You can ask them how they use the current one and all of their stuff. You have to describe it. The other way to test it could be we ask people to use the new one, and then what doesn't work, which is maybe a little bit more direct, where they say, "Well, I can't do that," and then if people say it, then we know. Okay.
Right. Yes. But Michael makes a very good comment, because ideally we want people to run more nodes. So if you ask the people running nodes, you're going to get a very